Hey chemistry students, Mr. Etter here again, walking you through this stoichiometry lab. In this lab, you will be watching a reaction between copper and silver nitrate, and you will be doing stoichiometry and comparing the results that maybe you should get to the results you should have gotten. We will look at that a little more next week. In this lab, you start off by part one, making a prediction. This is the majority of the lab. Make sure you watch this video and focus on trial one. There's no need to go to any of the other trials. Just focus on trial one for this lab. Here's the reaction. It is an unbalanced equation, so make sure you balance the reaction. Identify the reaction type in question 4. With question 5, use the balanced reaction to make this for every statement. So look at the reaction and figure out which one of those is true. Number 6, you're going to have to watch the video carefully. You need to determine how many grams of copper are added to the beaker. And to do that, they add the copper in at kind of a weird spot in the video. They don't take the mass of it directly on the balance, so you will need to do some subtraction. So make sure you do that carefully. Watch the video before they add the copper, watch it right after they add the copper to figure out how much copper they add. Once you figure out how much copper is added, what's the molar mass of copper, and use those two values to solve for the amount of moles of copper that are added to the beaker. Once you know how many moles of copper were in the beaker, you can then calculate the theoretical yield, which is how many grams of silver you should get out. In this reaction, there is silver nitrate present. There's excess, which is more than you need. So we really don't care how much silver nitrate there is. I know the video goes through and shows you those masses. Those masses do not matter. It's just the copper that matters in this lab. So once you've made your prediction, this is how many grams of silver that should be produced. When you commit to your answer, you lock the section and go on to part 2. In part 2, you will watch the same video over again with a little bit more added to it. And at the end of this video, it goes through how they isolate the silver, and you look at exactly how much silver was produced. The silver will be collected in the filter paper, and so make sure you account for the mass of the filter paper. Watch the video carefully to see the mass of the filter paper at the beginning. And after you subtract the mass of the filter paper, you can determine the mass of the silver that was collected. The last question here, question 3 in part 2, is a supposition. Suppose that in this lab, the mass came out larger than what you thought you should get. So if you got more mass of silver than what you predicted, how could that be, right? What error could have occurred? And I want you to think about, why did they leave the filter paper for 24 hours? Why did they completely let it dry out? And so with that, this was your first stoichiometry lab. I know you're doing labs with your instructor as well. So good luck with this lab, and reach out if you have any questions.